Hello, hello, it's Mrs. Tremblay. It is time for lesson 4. So right now you need your Unit 2 math packet, and we are going to open that packet up to page 7. And up at the top of your page 7 in the packet, it should say lesson number 4, place value of decimals in standard form. So we're going to be kind of doing what we did with our regular whole number values with decimals at this point. We're going to practice today how to say them and how to write them and how to identify how much it's worth when you are to the right of the decimal point. So our lesson today, it's just this one page. We'll get into more details tomorrow, but for now, one page, have your pencils ready, pause as you need to, but again, make sure that you're listening, you're writing down everything that I am writing down. All right, first off, verbal representation. Again, verbal representation just means how to say it. And the first thing you need to know is that when we have a decimal value, when you see that decimal point, you don't say decimal point, you say the word and. So right here, I want you to write the word and. Every time you see that decimal point, you write the word and. If you don't see a decimal point, you don't say the and. We talked about that quite a bit in class. All right, on the left side of the decimal, we do have commas. On the right side, they're not noted with commas. So you don't need to put any commas in on the right side of the decimal point, but let's go ahead and put commas where they go on the left side right now because we're gonna still have to say the numbers in front of the decimal point as well. So here's our decimal point. So starting from here, 1, 2, 3 digits over, in between those two is what gets the comma. So between the 3 and the 5. In the second one, 1, 2, 3, right there. No comma necessary here. And for our last one, 052, comma, 003, comma. Okay, so let's practice how to say these. We already know how to say this, right? We let the commas help us do the talking. The number that is right before that comma tells us what place to say, so I just say the number, and then whatever place the number just before the comma is in, that's what I say after it, except for the ones, it's not necessary. So to start here, we would say 3,528. Okay, now, we have a decimal point, right? So I would say 3,528, and now just like you read the chunk and said the place, we do the same thing over here. So this right here, what number is that? It's a 9. 9 what? Tenths. So this would be 3,528 and 9 tenths. This next one, first chunk, 428,004, and this number is 32. But 32 what? I'm going to follow that last digit up. 32 hundredths. So 428,004 and 32 hundredths. Next, there's 0 here. So you could say 0 and if you wanted. Or because there isn't a value here, you could just say, okay, now this is a little different. I see 019. The value of this right here, it's 19. Even this 0 in front of it doesn't change the fact that that's a 19. But 19 what? You're going to go all the way over to the right and follow it up. 19 thousandths, not thousands. 19,000 is a lot different than 19 thousandths. So this would be 19 thousandths. So you're just reading that digit and looking at the very last place to know what to say after. Okay, here we have 1,300,250, and when you look at this, I see 8. 8 what? 8 hundredths. 1,300,250 and 8 hundredths. Okay, and we'll continue practicing this in class, no worries. List the place of the underlined digit, then list the value of the digit. We did this before when we didn't have any decimal values on here. Now we're going to take a look when we have decimal value. So I ask you what place this is. This is not a comma, this is a decimal point. The second place to the right of the decimal point, if you look up here, here's the decimal point. The second place is the hundredths place. So for place here, this 3 is in the hundredths place. Now we want to know how much this is worth. It's worth 3 hundredths. If we only had 0.03, I could write that as a fraction as 3/100ths. Isn't 3/100ths the same as 0.03? Yes, and that's what we see right here. So if it's in the hundredths place, that means it is worth 3/100ths. This is what I want you to have. Okay, the next one, this underlined digit is the first place to the right of the decimal point, and we see up here that the first place to the right of the decimal point is the tenths place. So I'm gonna write tenths. And if I have a 1 in the tenths place, that means it's worth 1/10. It's worth 1/10. All right, here I have an 8, and it's in the place that is 1, 2, 3 places to the right of the decimal point. And up here, here's our decimal point. 3 places to the right of the decimal point is the thousandths place. So I'm going to write thousandths. Okay, and if the 8 is in the thousandths place, that means it is worth 8 thousandths. It's not worth 8,000. It's worth a lot less than that. It's worth 8 thousandths. Okay, now we are on to word form. And basically, if we can say it, then we can write it. It's the same process here. So start to the left of the decimal point, and what do we see? I just see the number 16. So I'm gonna go ahead and write 16. There's a decimal point. So do you know what I write next? What word replaces a decimal point? And. 16 and. Okay, now just how we read our chunks before, I'm gonna look and ask myself, what is this number? This number right here is 105. So I'm gonna go ahead and write the 105. Not 105, just 105. But this isn't actually worth 105 because it's to the right of the decimal point. It's worth 105. This 5, the last digit, is 3 places over. That's the thousandths place. So I would write 16 and 105 thousandths. 16 and 105 thousandths. All right, the next one, I see a 0 here. I don't have to say 0 and because it's not worth anything. So I'm just gonna look to the right of the decimal point, and what I see here, the value, 0.3, not 30, 0.3, that's worth 3. But it's not actually equivalent to 3, right? 0.03, it does not equal 3. It's 3, and this 3, the digit farthest right, is in the second place to the right of the decimal point. That is the hundredths place. So this is 3/100ths. It's 100 with a this. Okay, last one. To the right, or sorry, to the left of the decimal point, I see 125. And it's just straight up 125. So let's write that. 125. Now the 25 does get a dash. 125. Now there's a decimal point. That means I'm going to put the word and. 125 and. Now right here, that's an 8. But it's not worth 8. This 8 is the first place to the right of the decimal point. That means it's not worth 8. It's worth 8 tenths. So you need to write tenths after that 8. It's 10 with a this. Okay. So today you learned how to properly say decimal values, kind of going off of what we learned before, but every time you see that decimal point, you say the word and. To say what is to the right of the decimal point, you read the number that you see, and whatever place the last digit to the right is in, that's the word you put after it. So when we had to read this, I would read the chunk 428 and say thousands, or just thousand, right? 428,000, 4. Over here, it's the same idea. 32 is the number that I see, just like I saw 428, or just like I saw 4. But to know what to say afterwards, I follow that last digit up. Then we learned when we're figuring out the value, we're going to give a fractional value for that. So if the 3 is in the hundredths place, it's worth 3/100ths. If the 1 is in the tenths place, it's worth 1/10. If the 8 is in the thousandths place, it's worth 8 thousandths. And again, if you can say it, you can write it. Just remember, whenever you see that decimal point, you replace it with the word and. All right, you're all set to go on to your lesson 4 practice. Good luck.